let's go. If I ask you right now whether lunar or Martian bases exist, you'll probably laugh at me and say, of course not. But that's not entirely true. It turns out that today in various countries there are already dozens of complexes that simulate life on Mars or the Moon, and what's most interesting is that there are actually far more of them than I originally thought. So today I suggest we figure out together which bases already exist, how they differ from each other, who builds them, where they're built, and whether an ordinary tourist can visit them. I've put together a top 10 list of the most interesting projects that are already operating today and simulating life on other planets or simulating long-duration flights to those planets. Before we begin, let's understand why they are needed. Actually, the main problem isn't rockets or technology, it's people themselves. And when such complexes are built, one of the main objectives is to understand how a person will live, exist, and interact within a team in confined spaces during long-duration flights or on other planets. First and foremost, it's about simulating life in isolation. Yes, so there are such complexes, there are missions where people have been kept in isolation for 30 days, 60 days, even 500 days. Secondly, when people are placed in a confined space for an extended period, they are observed. How will conflicts that arise during the crew's work be resolved? How does a person's psyche change when confined to a limited space and prolonged solitude? How can one consistently sustain and nurture both productivity and motivation while being in the exact same group, in the very same physical environment, and in a state of complete social isolation? How are responsibilities distributed within the team? How is the work organized, and so on? The second main task is to test technologies such as living modules, life support systems, water purification systems, autonomous control systems, robotics, spacesuit operations, and communication tools. The third is to test autonomy itself. How much food needs to be produced independently? What should be grown? How should it be grown? How should the waste that will be generated be processed? How can the colonists or the crew undertaking a long-duration mission somewhere be provided with energy independence? How can resource consumption be minimized? Essentially, this is the modeling of an autonomous human colony. Next is conducting scientific research. Analog bases make it possible to conduct research in conditions as close as possible to those found off Earth. For example, the impact of isolation on cognitive abilities. How does a person's sleep change? How does human physiology change? The biology of closed systems, medicine for remote missions. In fact, many of these results are later used not only in space but also on Earth. For example, in certain polar expeditions or during extended stays in work environments such as mines and so on. The next point is preparing for the exploration of extreme territories on Earth. This is exactly where, yes, the exploration of the Arctic and the Antarctic comes in. That's why remote scientific stations, underwater bases, and desert bases are built. Therefore, analog bases become platforms for developing new survival technologies in extreme environments. Next is education and the popularization of science, as well as educational goals. Participants can undergo training programs, take part in experiments, yes, like citizen science, collect scientific data, and work with researchers. And seventh, probably, is the preparation for future space expeditions and the future economy in general. That is, on the basis of these analog Martian bases, extraterrestrial infrastructures and architectures are tested, autonomous settlements are modeled, and simulations are conducted of how facilities and buildings will be constructed in space, in other words, space construction. This includes testing new energy systems and testing robotics. Even at some of the Martian bases that exist on Earth today, robotics competitions are regularly held. And overall, this contributes to the development of the space industry and space tourism. But in the course of my research, yes, I realized that most projects of this kind are purely scientific, and science by itself does not make such facilities profitable. And in fact, most analog Martian or lunar bases exist thanks to government grants, universities, space agencies, or wealthy sponsors who are interested in space, in the colonization of Mars and the Moon, the construction of lunar bases, asteroid mining, and so on. But there is a very interesting Martian base in China that has successfully combined not only science, but also science popularization tourism, the promotion of space exploration, education, and a commercial model, a truly sustainable commercial model. So let's probably start now with our first Martian base. This is Mars Base 1, which is located in China. Mars Base 1 is in Gansu province. It is the first immersive, realistic base in China dedicated to the theme of Mars, created under the guidance of the China Astronaut Research and Training Center and the China International Exchange Center for Aerospace Science and Technology. It closely combines real aerospace research with popular tourism. The Martian environment of the base is a desert. The base is located in the Gobi Desert in the Jinchuan district of Jincheng City, Gansu Province. It is distinguished by unique red rock formations and the barren Gobi Desert, and its topography and natural conditions are considered to be extremely similar to the surface of Mars. The central part of the base consists of numerous snow-white huts with silvery domes, largely recreating the appearance of a future human base on Mars. It has 9 main compartments, including a control compartment, an airlock compartment, a crew compartment, a biological compartment, a life support compartment for growing plants, a medical compartment, and a compartment for recreation and fitness. This base is not only an important site for popularizing aerospace science and research among teenagers, but also one of the real testing grounds for space exploration equipment, such as lunar rovers or Mars rovers. Thanks to its impressive science fiction visual effects, it has also served as a filming location for well-known entertainment shows and movies, such as Space Challenge. In general, this is the closest analog to what we are trying to implement to build, yes, on the Ural Mars. Because the features that this base has are, first of all, it is open to tourists. Second, it is an educational center. Third, it has Martian modules. Fourth, it provides crew training. Fifth, it offers accommodation for participants. Sixth, it has excursion programs. Seventh, it has school programs. And eighth, it is about science. And it's very important. The Chinese were the first to try to combine a Martian base, education, tourism, and science popularization. Overall, this project is my personal favorite because the base itself is truly large-scale and looks unbelievably cool. It brings together several areas at once: commercial, tourism, scientific, popularization, and the use of new testing technologies. In fact, this is exactly what we ourselves are striving for. All in all, the Chinese have done a great job. And when I studied this project, of course, a large amount of investment was put into it. I think it took several tens of millions of dollars to build such a base. That's why it's so serious, impressive, and looks really cool. As for the official website, unfortunately, I couldn't find one. There are many different articles in Chinese, but I couldn't find a website specifically dedicated to this project. However, I'm sure it exists. It's probably just that it's exclusively internal to the country and hasn't been translated into other languages, which is why I can't find it. But I did manage to find an interesting short video, about 2 minutes long. I suggest we watch it now as well. This is Mars Base 1, China's first immersive Mars simulation center, which blends science, space exploration, and imagination. The experiment is not just visual. Simplified astronaut training devices such as wheels and centrifuges provide a tangible physical connection to space technology. From hydroponic gardens to enclosed areas, the base offers a glimpse into future existence. It feels like I have witnessed the success of a space mission. From fantasy to frontier, Mars Base 1 brings space exploration to Earth, one immersive mission at a time. The next base on our list is HICs. It is located in Hawaii, USA. This is an analog research station for Mars and Moon exploration, currently operated by the International Moon Base Alliance. The facility is located in an area that, let's say, resembles Mars. Yes, on the Mauna Loa volcano on the island of Hawaii. HICs has been home to 5 successful long-term NASA Mars simulation missions, ranging from 4 to 12 months, as well as dozens of other analog space missions in collaboration with various space agencies, companies, and organizations around the world. Here are its features, right? First of all, it's a kind of dome-shaped module on the slope of a volcano. Not many can boast, right? Such a location on the slope of a volcano. Next, NASA has conducted missions here lasting up to 1 year. Here, the psychology of isolation is studied, life on Mars is simulated, and crew nutrition is also researched. So let's now take a look at their official website and see what interesting things they have here. 20 seconds of the 8th advertisement. Welcome to High Seas. Here is, in fact, the description I was talking about. Oh, a video. Let's watch it. No, well, I like it. It's a cool place, really. The location is excellent. The suits are really well made. And then there are all sorts of volcanic tubes going down. Well, it's great, really great. So here we have information about the various missions. Well, basically I'll post all the links here. You can see which missions have already taken place, what they did there, all sorts of patches. In general, you could spend a long time here exploring a lot of interesting things. I myself got stuck on this site, I don't know, probably for at least an hour when I was studying and gathering information. Here they model different robots. Well, it's cool, really cool. I really like what they're doing. Honestly, the complex itself is pretty modest, just a single dome, really. But nevertheless, the focus here is really on the content, on what they're doing there, the fact that they conduct a lot of different field studies and so on. So, the next Martian base is the Mars Desert Research Station. Actually, I couldn't find an official website, but you can read and check out Wikipedia instead. It's also located in the USA, in the state of Utah. This is a Mars research station in the desert. It is the largest and longest running research center simulating a base on the surface of Mars, owned and operated by the Mars Society. Yes, we have a very large Mars community. The station was built in the early 2000s near Hanksville, Utah, in the western United States. It's intended for small crew teams who conduct scientific research and so on. The campus includes a 2-story habitat with a greenhouse, a solar and robotic observatory, an engineering unit, and a science building. By the way, this is one Martian base that has its own observatory. Other analog Martian and lunar bases did not have an observatory. But we will be, it turns out, the second to have our own observatory in a Martian base. So what are the other features? Well, first of all, it has existed since the early 2000s, so it's already a fairly old Martian base. It is located in the red desert of Utah. As you can see in the photos, the landscapes look like this. They really resemble the Euro-Mars, by the way, in terms of color, and overall they look like Martian landscapes. Next, the participants live like a Mars crew, using spacesuits when going out onto the terrain, yes. They also conduct various tests and research. There is its own observatory, as I mentioned, its own greenhouse, and they hold annual robotics competitions for students. Yes, by the way, we'll probably adopt this idea from them as well and start holding robotics competitions in our area too. So that's an interesting fact. Elon Musk financed part of this station's infrastructure. Now let's go to Wikipedia and see what interesting things we can find here. Well, basically here it says, it is the largest and longest running research center on the surface simulating Mars. But we've already figured that out. The project was launched by the Mars Society. It's a kind of non-profit, let's say, public organization. Various studies have been conducted. You can also read all about this and check it out. The habitat, Green Hub, that's their greenhouse. Yes, that's what it's called. Here, there's an observatory and even information about their septic systems, how they're set up. In general, there are references here to various sources, so if you're interested, you can study and look into it in more detail. So, next we have a Martian lunar base located in Poland. And by the way, most Martian bases are in America, but this one is located in Poland. What's interesting about this one? Basically, this is a private analog laboratory created in 2017, quite recently, for simulating crewed space missions. The facility located in Poland specializes in simulating lunar and Martian missions, accommodating up to 6 crew members for up to 2 weeks. The main goal is to advance scientific and technological research in the field of crewed space exploration. Lunaris brings together experts from fields such as medicine, psychology, robotics, engineering, and space architecture, fostering an interdisciplinary approach to our research. Our project focuses on human factors in space missions and the development of innovative sustainable technologies. The station is located in an isolated EVA zone covering 250 square meters. So, well, it's kind of like a bunker, that's what it looks like. Well, 250 square meters is not very much, I'd even say it's very little. And it would be one thing if they only lived there, simulating life inside the colony. But it also includes a simulation of lunar or Martian soil, and they perform these extravehicular activities. So basically, we've created a pretty authentic environment here. What are the features? It's complete crew isolation. Well, in principle, other bases also have complete isolation. Next, there's the simulation of the Moon and Mars. This complex can accommodate up to 8 people and is actively used for research. But if we go to the website, I studied it in detail here, you can actually even apply to become a participant if your specialty fits what they're looking for a particular mission. But overall, you can submit an application here. That's it. There are a lot of different photos on the website. You can go and take a look. Here you can also read what various media resources have written about them, as well as read their articles. There are quite a lot of articles here. They even have their own YouTube channel. It's not very active, but you can still check it out. Next, here we have information about various missions that have taken place or will take place, and you can even become an ambassador for this project. And in fact, the team here is international. Here are the ambassadors. Our ambassadors come from different countries and they have a large number of collaborations with various organizations. And overall, I think we will have no fewer collaborations. In fact, we already have at least as many. We've already reached preliminary agreements on cooperation with quite a few partners. That's it. You can also leave your contact information here. I'll also attach a link to this website in the description so you can study it in detail yourself. Let's move on. Moving forward. The next concept for a Martian base that we are looking at is actually officially developed by the team at NASA itself. It's called Chapia NASA Mars Dune Alpha. Well, Dune Alpha, what an interesting name they have. It's located in Texas, USA. Well, it's a complex, yes, but overall it's a series of various missions and studies that simulate long-term stays on the surface of Mars. And each mission consists of 4 crew members living in an isolated habitat with an area of 1,700 square feet. During the mission, the crew conducts simulated spacewalks and provides data on various factors, including physical and behavioral health and performance. Actually, well, this is in my opinion the youngest project that exists today that is on our, so to speak, list. And overall, it's kind of one of NASA's newest projects in general. What are its features? The feature is that this complex is entirely 3D printed. But again, what does entirely mean? Specifically, everything inside their simulation base where the crew lives is 3D printed. But the complex itself is located in a large sort of box, a garage, I'm not sure how to put it, a large room. Then, various year-long missions are conducted simulating life on Mars, researching what life on Mars would be like, and modeling resource limitations. In other words, the crew is placed in special conditions where their resources are limited, and they have to find ways to work and operate under those circumstances. So, if we go to the website and they don't have a separate website, it's directly on NASA's site. And here first, there's a render. In fact, there is very little information about this project. It would be nice to have more real photos, but here there's just a render. Why use a render when they've already built this Martian base? They could have included some more lively, interesting photos here. There are photos, for example, of how they printed this complex. Next, if we go further, here you can already see some real photos of how everything is set up after it was printed. And here you can also read various articles. Here, well, the NASA website is big and it immediately takes you to other missions, projects, and so on. Overall, that's basically how it all looks. There are articles. Mission 2. So there was Mission 1. Their simulation looks like this. Basically, they built a box like this, hung up posters. Here are live photos of the team. Yes, apparently this was their simulation, how they landed, got out and walked to the base along the red carpet. Well, here they were already being greeted. They had already returned from this mission, obviously. In general, there's very little information. That's all I was able to find. So the next base on our list is the Flashline Mars Arctic Research Station. The name pretty much speaks for itself. The project is located in the Arctic, or to be more precise, in the Canadian Arctic. I couldn't find an official website either, but there is a Wikipedia page, so we can check Wikipedia. This is a research station located on Devon Island, about 163 kilometers north of the village of Resolute, Nunavut in northern Canada. It is situated in a polar desert area near a 23-kilometer wide impact crater. This location for the station, which simulates conditions on Mars, was chosen by the Mars Society. Well, there's also some other Mars Association. I don't really know what kind of association that is. At the station, scientific research related to planetology is conducted, and equipment and work methods for future Martian missions are also tested. Here we can also see some small robots, lunar rovers. People also go outside in spacesuits, and various kinds of research are conducted. A distinctive feature of this station is that it is located on Devon Island. The station is considered one of the most Mars-like places on Earth. Why is that? Because the climate there is as close as possible to that of Mars. Next is complete isolation. When we talk about complete isolation, in this case, yes, it's simply that within a distance of about 163 kilometers, there isn't a single settlement. And if we talk about other Mars bases that exist, they are not located so far from populated areas. And in fact, the climate is quite extreme. Let's take a look now at what interesting things we have on Wikipedia. In general, our Wikipedia page is, well, rather small. There's not much information here. If you look visually at where this island is located, here it is, Canada. Again, I'll attach the Wikipedia article here so you can read and check it out yourself. It actually says here that this society, yes, the society, well, I guess this is the Mars Society I mentioned earlier. I don't think it's any other organization. They actually have 4 stations in total, and this is one of them. Here you can read about when the station was established. The station itself was built, it turns out, in April 1998. So this turns out to be one of the oldest Mars bases, if not the very first, that simulates life on Mars. There are also articles, links to various articles you can read and check out. In fact, there's a lot of information available. So on the one hand, there aren't many Mars bases, but there are actually quite a lot of missions, studies, and articles that have already been carried out and written. So overall, there's a lot of information, plenty to read and study. Currently, the campus actually consists of 2 buildings, the habitat and the generator hut. Our next project is Biosphere 2. This is a legendary scientific research complex in the Arizona desert, also of course in the USA. It was built to model a closed ecosystem and to test the possibility of human survival in complete isolation. The goal is to create autonomous colonies for space or shelters in case of an environmental catastrophe. Yes, such a global mission which sets it apart from other Martian bases. Inside the sealed space, 5 biogeocenosis were recreated. These are a tropical rainforest, an ocean with coral reefs, a mangrove swamp, a savanna, and a desert. The first mission actually began in 1991 and ended in 1993. 4 men and 4 women spent almost 2 years in isolation. They grew their own food and maintained the life support systems themselves. But in reality, things were not as perfect as described here. If you look into it in more detail, there were actually a lot of different violations, and many things in the complex itself didn't work properly. They even opened the windows there and in general handled the food situation differently, but that's another topic. The second mission was carried out in 1994. A crew of 7 people stayed inside for almost 6 months out of the planned 10. That mission also failed, and they did not stay for the required period, again for a number of reasons. And probably all of this is connected to the fact that the complex itself was built and initially managed by someone who was not exactly, let's say, competent, a sort of enthusiast who managed to attract a lot of money, bring in a wealthy individual, and make this complex a reality. Currently, this station, this complex actually belongs to the University of Arizona, and it is open to all tourists and is quite a popular location. It is also used for experiments on climate change and ecosystem preservation. In fact, they don't have an official website because the project is now under the university's management. Yes, but in general, if you go to the university's website, you can find this project Biosphere 2. And here you can watch various videos, see who works in this complex, and also look at the different biozones, like the tropics here, you can watch a video. Next, for example, we have the ocean reef here. So this is how it all looks. It's really quite interesting. You can watch a video. I also spent quite a long time getting absorbed in this project because there's a lot of different information available on YouTube as well. And recently there was even an episode by Mr. Beast. He went to this complex and walked around himself, showing how everything is set up there. So I'll attach the link in the description as well. You can check it out yourself and study it in more detail, and we move on. The next project is Sirius, led by the Institute of Biomedical Problems of the Russian Academy of Sciences. This complex is located here in Moscow. I personally visited it not too long ago. We had certain agreements with this institute regarding cooperation and in general the initial establishment of our Martian base. In general, the Institute of Biomedical Problems is our leading organization in the field of space medicine and biology, where for decades technologies have been developed to prepare humans for space missions. Life support systems are created and human behavior in extreme conditions is studied. So the complex itself is called Sirius. And there, they once conducted a legendary experiment called Mars 500, where for 520 days the crew lived in a confined space. Essentially, it was a simulation of a long-duration flight to Mars, landing on the surface of Mars and returning back. Other international projects are also being carried out at the Institute. Among them, various scientists and astronauts from other countries come and conduct joint experiments, research, and so on. Specialists from NASA have also come for joint projects. This project is very interesting. I think we'll insert some of our own footage for just a minute when we visited this complex, so you can not only see it on the website but actually watch our video, our tour of this complex. So here it is. And if you go to the website itself, there is actually a lot of information here. Here you can find all the research and missions that have been conducted at this complex. And in general, of course, this is essentially the website of an entire institute, a leading one in Russia. And naturally, there is a lot of interesting material here to read, study, and so on. But I'll leave that for you, so that in your free time, over a cup of tea or coffee in the evening, you can sit down and read and explore everything with great interest yourself. But let's move on. The next project, of course, looks rather unconventional. They basically just inflated a large complex, simply inflated it, yes. And this is what it looks like. This project is called the ELMA Mars Analog Station. It is located in North Dakota under the supervision of a university and is used for testing life support systems and conducting research in conditions close to those on the Moon and Mars. Essentially, it is a high-tech analog station for simulating space missions. Again, this one might actually be the most realistic compared to all the other projects, because when people land on the Moon or Mars to colonize it, probably no one will be doing large-scale construction there. Instead, they'll just bring in some complexes, inflate them with special equipment, and people will be able to enter and start setting up their lives in the colony within an hour. That's why, as a technology, it seems more plausible to me than any kind of construction, and it probably can't even be compared to 3D printing, because to print something like that, you also need to spend certain resources, gather the raw materials, and basically time for everything to be printed, right? But here, you just arrive and literally within a few hours, you can deploy an entire analog Martian base. Even though at first glance it may seem simple and uninteresting, on the other hand, as a technology, it is probably closer to reality. Basically, if we go to the website, and here this site is not for a specific project, but rather the Institute's website, and here too there is a separate section dedicated to this analog Martian base. There isn't a vast amount of information here, but nevertheless, we say, you can still take a closer look at a variety of photos, read through the details, and get a better sense of what it looks like inside. You can see exactly what is located where, check which missions were carried out, see who worked on this project, and generally assess the work for yourself. Well, let's move on. The very last base in our comprehensive review, which successfully makes it into the top 10 list, is the impressive Lunar Palace 1, also widely known as Huigong 1 or the Moon Palace 1 facility. This is an advanced Chinese scientific research laboratory and a bioregenerative life support system created at Beihang University, Beijing University of Aeronautics and Astronautics. It is designed for the development of lunar base systems and for simulating autonomous human life in space. The main information about the project, its purpose, is that it is a fully closed ecological system where the crew can grow their own food, recycle waste and breathe purified air while being isolated from the external environment. The area of this complex is 160 square meters, consisting of 3 main modules, 2 modules for growing plants and 1 living module. So, what achievements have there been? In 2017, the research team successfully completed the historic Yueyang 365 experiment, during which 4 students spent 365 days in the laboratory without access to outside air or water, surviving exclusively on plants grown there and recycling all waste products using biosystems. The key features are as follows. It is a closed bio-ecosystem. Food is grown inside. There is prolonged crew isolation, with the crew eating exclusively food grown within the system. And essentially, it also serves as preparation for lunar and Martian bases. Once again, I unfortunately couldn't find an official website for this, but I did manage to come across something else quite interesting. Here is the first one, a detailed article that describes exactly this event and this specific mission, which was originally carried out in the year 2017, where a dedicated crew of 4 people lived in isolation and ate exclusively the food that was grown entirely inside this complex. Next is an article on Wikipedia. There isn't much information here, but nevertheless you can still find something interesting to read. And I found this video too. Let's quickly watch it now. I work with equipment and objects. 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 So in general, that's the interesting project we have. That wraps up our selection. And as a bonus, as the author of this video and this review, I'd like to tell you about our own project as well. Yes, the project hasn't been built yet, but nevertheless, we are striving and doing everything we can so that next year our Martian base will already be up and running. This is the Mars Base Observatory, a scientific and tourist complex located in Russia at the Ural-Mars site. The Mars Base is a scientific and tourist complex being created in Russia dedicated to space, astronomy, analog Martian missions, and science popularization tourism. The project is being implemented at the unique Ural-Mars location in the Sverdlovsk region, a former quarry with red and white rocks and landscapes that resemble the surface of Mars. The complex is planned to include residential modules, a mission control center, an astronomical observatory, scientific and educational spaces, a themed Martian food truck, and infrastructure for conducting expeditions and research programs. The project will combine elements of a space center, a tourist attraction, and a platform for citizen science where visitors will be able to participate in astronomical observations, scientific experiments, geological research, and simulated Martian missions. One of the key objectives of the project is to popularize science and space exploration through hands-on experience, immersing visitors in the atmosphere of exploring other planets. In the future, the Martian Base Observatory Ural-Mars could become one of the largest sites in Eurasia, bringing together space, science, tourism, education, and research expeditions. In fact, I think that the analog bases we've discussed today are just the beginning. In a few decades, such complexes will become commonplace, just like parks, institutes, and observatories. And perhaps it will be in these very complexes that humanity will prepare itself for life on other planets, for life in colonies that by that time may already exist. And overall, I find it very interesting to work in this field, to build my own Martian base, and to observe how this entire industry is developing. Who is doing what, who is building which Martian bases, and what people are working on in this area. And write in the comments if I missed something, or if there are other interesting projects that already exist or are planned to be built in the near future. I will be studying all of this. I find it all very interesting. I will continue my research in this field. And overall, thank you for watching. See you all next time.